You like how it looks? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You happy with it there? Don't fall asleep in it, you know. Don't fall asleep in it. Oh, 1 minute. Okay. He says a minute.
Let's make sure it's not blocked, right? It's not blocking your face. Maybe make sure. Put on beverage.
Yeah, we good? Okay.
Yeah, it's in the shot. You gotta bring it back out.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It out of the frame. Yeah.
No, it's not there. Not there. Yeah, like me need no food, nothing. I'm hungry.
Sorry, what? No, no, no. I just had a shot of breakfast though. Twice. Yeah, they did. Good afternoon and welcome to the Caribbean Food and Beverage event here at the Center of Excellence. We're on to day 2 and been having some very intriguing discussions here. And if you would also like to be part of it and see it in full swing, please feel free to make your way to the presentation area, which is at the back of the hall here at the Bougainville Hall, and you can participate in what is today our last panel discussion. We will also continue our discussions tomorrow from 10 a.m. live here at the Center of Excellence. A reminder that we are streaming live on YouTube at the SouthX channel, and we're also being broadcast live on Freedom 106.5 FM. Good afternoon, I am Samantha Best, and now we're going to get into the discussion on food waste management. With me on this afternoon's panel is Shan Young, the founder CEO of SIAL Environmental Services Limited, and I can call you Shan?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And Shan is an award-winning waste management educator, consultant, and social entrepreneur. And she is on a mission to spread the waste management gospel with her coined phrase, waste is sexy. And I definitely want to find out exactly how sexy it actually is.
Okay.
She captivates audiences with actionable and unforgettable tips that she believes must be shared with the world. And Shan brings dynamic energy, engaging passion, and extensive knowledge to her work. And we are definitely excited to have you here as
Thank
part
you.
of our panel. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Samantha.
Also with us is Ms. Nadia Rudder. She is the Managing Director of Ideas Eye Foundation, a local CSO, promoting ideas that promote sustainable development and the local circular economy. And Ms. Rudder possesses 13 plus years of experience in the waste management sector. She has been at the forefront of coordinating local Green Fund funded recycling initiatives that include the EMA Care project and the Plastic Keep Recovery program, where she developed strategies for implementing sustainable waste management systems and executed climate smart initiatives in communities and at national events. Welcome, Ms. Rudder. And last but not least, we left the gentleman for last, Mr. Richard Seabrew. He is currently the president of the environmental NGO Central Pathfinders Environmental Foundation. And CPEF is a civil society group which was founded in 2014 to bring environmental awareness to the grassroots level through community engagement activities and innovative projects. And the group is responsible for the creation of the Captain Turner Urban Composter, which we have here, and the research and design of which was funded by the UNDP GEF, a small grants program. The Captain Turner, which is now available for order, was designed to reduce the organic waste going to landfills. Welcome.
Thank you.
And let's start with your thoughts, Shan, in general on food waste management. What is your drive here?
So, everyone who is listening, if your business, when you are producing your products and or your service, has food waste at the end of it, I want you to lend me your ears. Because this conversation is critical for you to pay attention to right now. So the reason why we're here, Samantha, is to really bring some awareness and to educate those in the industry about why it's important to manage food waste. What we know for a fact is that the majority of waste that ends up at our landfills is organic. And because of that, it is imperative that we set up systems, we educate ourselves, we pay attention to the waste that we are getting rid of. Because for me and for my fellow panelists, waste is something that has come to the end of its life that is no longer useful. That's the definition. But for us, it's a valuable resource, something that we can use over and over, create another product of higher value. And so it is important that we start having these discussions so that, one, the business community is aware of what is leaving their facility. They know quantities, they know types, they know all of these things. And to see how best we could divert that away from the landfill. Too much is ending up there that doesn't necessarily need to be there.
And Nadia, your thoughts in general on food waste management. What is your drive that has you here today?
Well, when you think about food waste, a lot of times people don't always think about the actual fact that food is packaged in containers. And so locally in Trinidadians, we have a lot of events. And when you look around this space, you see a lot of people consuming, but a small part of that, or a large part of that, is also the packaging in which our food comes in, right? So there's a statistics from the OAS where locally they produce as much as 12,000 tons of styrofoam alone when it comes to Trinidad and Tobago, right? So we want to be able to sort of manage that impact. So when we think about food waste, we don't just want to think about the organic components. We want to think about the inorganic components, right? So if we are discarding waste, a lot of times we are also discarding packaging. And so now we are seeing a drive locally where there is a thrust towards implementing or enforcing legislation, like the EMA would have passed new waste rules of 2021, which became enforceable in May 2022 of this year. And so it fosters a culture of responsibility for waste. I feel as though something just happened.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, so local manufacturers of food and beverages will now have a responsibility to ensure that there is accountability in terms of how
Sounds good, Nadia. And Richard, what's your drive that has you here today when it comes to food waste management?
Well, thanks for the question. So I will just continue on from what Sean was saying. We tend to think of waste as something that's come to the end of its useful point, right? But in my NGO, what we recognized when we did some community work is that people now, especially with the pandemic, have turned a lot to producing their own kitchen gardens and trying to be more self-sufficient. And in order to do that, you need inputs, all right? And you're not seeing people utilizing enough of the organic waste to generate things like the compost, which are needed to grow your plants, to grow your cucumbers, your peppers, your vegetables. So what we did was, and we looked at the society and realized that more and more people are living in high-rise buildings and more urbanized areas, and we don't have as many people living in open countrysides where they could have a compost that they go out and turn once every month or so. So we designed an urban composter to resolve the problem. All right, so this is it. We branded it the Captain Turner. And what it does is it reduces the pests and any of the smells, any of the foul odors that you typically associate with compost if you have an open compost or just a bucket system. So with the design, we've been able to aerate just by turning the bucket, which is simple. Even a child could do it. And we have a valve on the bottom which reduces the amount of moisture that will be stored in the unit. So in a very reliable amount of time, about 30 days, we're able to get a consistent compost product just using your vegetable products from the kitchen, whatever food scraps you have, and some brown material, which would be like shredded cardboard or some sawdust, etc. So in that way, we're able to be more circular and have people generating food from what would have been scraps.
No, that's very interesting indeed, because I tried to make my own compost home and it was a failed event.
Well,
Okay.
Samantha, I can tell you why that didn't work, eh? Because I also compost at home, and of course I love the natural systems. So as much as I love how technology and I love the work that Richard and they are doing, I'm still a natural compost girl, and of course just making sure I teach people, because I do that as well, how to compost. So you don't get the smells, you don't get the rats, you don't get all of those other things too. So I can help you out, Samantha. Don't worry, don't
I'm
worry.
definitely going to be taking your number. So, who would like to expand and tell us the difference between what food loss and food waste?
So I'll take that one. So normally when we hear the two words, we think they're the same because they kind of sound alike. But the thing is that for food loss is a decrease in the quality and quantity of the food that is generated. But the critical part is that it happens a little earlier on in the supply chain. So coming from the farmers, from the agro-processors, maybe they have to dispose of their things because it may have spoiled, or it got damaged in transportation, or it's not ready for the shelves, because hotels and other places have specific requirements for the food that they serve. So that's where food loss happens. And then food waste happens on the retail and the consumer end. And that's really also because of food may have spoiled because it's there on the shelves too long, it may have expired, or sometimes, we cook too much food, because my mother cooks like there are 8 people in the house and it's just her and my brother, right? So it always tends to have excess food that she would have to get rid of. Because my dog died, so there's no more doggy to give the food to. But that is where you tend to have more of the food waste happening. So it happens more on the other end of the value chain, the retail and the consumer end. But the food loss happens earlier in the value chain as it pertains to the production and distribution part of food waste. Yeah.
So the food loss and the food waste, how do we address these two as they're closely linked?
Yes, they are. So typically, the food waste, is treated with some of the solutions that Richard is talking about, like using composting,
Right.
like biogas digestion, and the food loss, because it still tends to be edible, because that's another thing. I recently conducted a residential audit. And the good thing for that community, it was done in Maracas community, is that they only threw away the things that they didn't want anymore. But the thing with the food loss is it can still be edible. So I'm also an advocate for ugly and naked fruit and vegetables. They don't always need to be wrapped up and closed in plastic. So it's important that, especially if they can still be consumed, because people want the pretty lettuce and the pretty cucumbers and the bananas with no little dig. And I tell people, if it's good for the worms, it's good for you. So if we can now take some of that product and give it to those who are in need, like utilize distribution centers, food banks, set up, let technology be utilized in some way. How can we get the food to the people who need it? And that's how, so far, I've seen the separation in terms of the treatment, but it doesn't mean that they both can't be. The goal is to not have as much being produced at the end. So if we could deal with it earlier on and divert it, then that is what we should endeavor to do.
And Nadia, I think this will fall to you. Could you explain to us the waste rules cover?
Yeah. Plus, yeah. Oh, organic. For. Yes. Correct. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Materials. Resources. Compostable. Means for it to break down. Good for us.
So if we are consuming sufficient quantities of these, which are, it tends to be a lot of plastic. Now, plastic has been a revolutionary product over the last 60 years that has been around with us, I would say, right? And it has allowed for us to improve our food safety and various things. But now we are at a learning curve where we are forced to think about the impact of plastic. And so over the years, even for this year, this month of June, there's been activity and discussion of beating plastic pollution, cold environment, and activities still continue to persist today because they understand that plastic, although it is a valuable resource, even in this container that is made, composed, is made from plastic, and we're putting it to good use, right? But if in the environment, when it begins to break down, it becomes a poison to human body. So there is need for us as consumers to consider how can we change this? How can we be more responsible? Change our procurement processes and begin to integrate whether it is composting, whether it's in educating and implementing waste management systems at the workplace. We need to be able to action these things collectively, synergistically,
Absolutely.
and it all connects back to various corporate social responsibilities
And
here,
sustainability.
Yeah, because I
No, no, no,
wanted
no,
to
no.
add one more thing to what Nadia is saying, and it's just to go a little bit further back when she was talking about, and she mentioned the word biodegradability. One thing I want people to walk away from this as well is understanding what the terms mean, so that when you see them, you are not bamboozled and fooled into believing that it is doing what it's meant to do.
Right.
So terms like biodegradable, compostable, degradable, oxo-degradable, because I'm seeing it being used on packaging really illegitimately. It is absolute, saying it is greenwashing, but let me use local terms, it's nonsense, right? That is happening where because people don't know. So degradable means to simply break down.
Right.
Then you have biodegradable, bio from the word biological, to break down via a biological process. All plastics are derived from oil. So have you seen Samantha plastic bottle become oil again?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. So it's just to explain to people to get yourself familiar with the terms. You don't necessarily have to take what Shan says, what Nadia says, what Richard said. Make yourself familiar, because important, if you understand, you will know, okay, this is not really doing what it's supposed to do. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much. And
Can I ask one question though?
But I
of
was going to
Nadia?
come to you, Richard, because I was saying in terms of food waste management, you may be extremely excited and say to yourself, because you found a solution that there's
Yeah.
not enough waste for me to deal with, right?
No, 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 that's not our goal at all. What we want to do with this unit is really raise awareness. This unit targets a niche of the amount of food waste that's going to be produced. This is really for people who live in high rise and don't have the yard space to do an open composting situation. So this unit will take maybe a few weeks to fill in a household, but if it's in a commercial setting, it may fill in one day, right? And then take another 6 weeks to break down completely into the compost. So it's not going to be able to keep up with the amount of demand of a commercial environment. But just having it in a household setting helps to raise the awareness of how do we separate waste, how do we utilize what we have in a more eco-friendly and sustainable way. All right, so I hope I answered your question, because I want to ask Nadia, you spoke about waste management, right? So our NGO isn't just involved in the Captain Turner, which is an upcycled plastic product, but we also collect and encourage our community members to collect plastic bottles. All right, and we take that to somewhere where they recycle it. So is it that we would have to get a permit to put it into our trucks and transport it? Okay.
And it's based on numbers too, Richard. It's based on quantities. So if you are in excess of a certain amount,
Right.
then that is when the race rules will come into play. And as
Okay.
Nadia said, if you're storing it as well, because if they're just collecting it, putting it on a truck and it going, then you would need to. But if you're deciding that, yes, we're going to keep it here, and we're going to be here for weeks, and then we're going to do something, well, then,
Right, right.
then it will
Okay.
have to come into play.
Okay.
Move volumes, correct.
Okay. So we'll reach out. We'll reach out.
I'm thinking this may, Nadia may answer this, but also maybe even Shan may have some thoughts on this. I'm thinking about, you've discussed that, plastics are a major problem, for example. I'm thinking, what is the end of the waste management systems in place? So my business comes and we start a waste management program, and then our plastic goes somewhere. What happens in the end result? Because I've seen countries where they ship their plastics abroad, and that now becomes a major problem for those countries that are trying to get rid
Rid
of
of-
those inorganic
correct.
products.
Correct. So, yeah, so what I was just going to say is you're very right. The countries that become the receivers tend to become the garbage bins of the world, where everybody's sending their stuff to them. But to me, as running a waste education agency and a training agency as well, it's important that people recognize that the goal is we have overburdened landfills. They're over their capacity, and nobody wants to have NIMBY, which is not in my backyard. Nobody wants to know that there's a landfill right behind them. And so it is important that we recognize that whatever work that you are doing in your organization is a part of your values and your belief system, because you might feel passionately about the environment and say, you know what, I'm really not feeling comfortable with all of this just going to the landfill all the time and throwing it away, so I want to do something else. But a critical point is understanding what is happening to it. Because for some of the companies that I have engaged, they said, well, Shan, the so-and-so just come and pick it up, and well, I have no idea where they're going. And a lot of times, if you don't know, they might be driving in a side street and offloading it in the night. So you have to, it's not a out of sight, S-I-T-E and S-I-G-H-T, out of mind principle. You can't adopt that. So understanding what is happening, it's also called extended producer responsibility. That's the formal terminology. Understanding what is happening to it, where is it going? Am I working with if you're working with a farmer, what is happening? Is he feeding his pigs, feeding his chickens? Because all of those are options. But you know for a fact that something is happening to it that is positively, has a positive reaction with the natural environment, and that you can now take that information and put it forward to your stakeholder, whether it's your internal stakeholder, which are your staff members, or your external stakeholders, which are your customers. So you should be proud to say, this is what we are doing as an organization, and to mean it. Not just say it because everybody talking all the nice words, but to say it and mean it and live by it and be transparent and accountable. So that's critically important, yes.
And Nadia, someone who's implementing these systems, I'd say as someone who's implementing these systems, how do you guarantee the end result is positive?
Correct.
discussions have been ongoing, and we are seeing, businesses coming to the fore with their ideas and be willing to execute. We have organizations like Lion Tree and other, who are taking, waste plastic, whatever you don't want, any kind of plastic that you don't want, they will sink it and sequester it into products that can be long-standing
Right.
in public spaces, whether it's benches or whatever. And so we are seeing the industry beginning to forge
Yeah.
locally, and pretty soon you're going to see other stuff happening. But the legislation lends itself to that system, right? That system is a circular economy value system, where you are intentionally ensuring that there's enough what you would call feedstock or volumes of a particular resource to make a particular product. Because if all the plastics are going to the landfill as carrot glass, if all the glass is going to the landfill, then they will have to end up importing it, the
They,
regular glass to make
new
their
glass.
product. But there should be sufficient feedstock locally. But what it calls for is the active participation of individuals, of companies, of ensuring that this value system is entered into. So the legislation is not necessarily meant to be punitive, but to encourage behavior change towards circularity, right?
Yeah.
So that, okay, I will not pay as much if all this plastic that my company generated actually goes back into a product. And so now they begin to understand the circular economy. So
Yeah.
you could avoid the negative impacts of the law by reducing and recycling and participating in the circular economy and supporting the education, etc. So every organization that is here on the ground today can begin to participate in that. Even the event organizers, we can begin to ensure that there are recycling receptacles established for the to treat the waste streams, valuable waste streams that are generated here, right? So instead of all of it going into one litter bin and it's going to compost, we can treat with that, differently. And these are some of the solutions that, as sustainable development strategists and consultants, we seek to respond to help you. If you don't understand the how, we can educate you. So you could come in and do an education session and demonstrate with the compost. And so what's the major volume of waste that you are generating is what we start with first. So
First.
that's why every company is different, and so we need to treat with them on an individual basis. So, we encourage you to reach out to us. If you don't know where to start, there's someone here.
Yeah. There are people here who can help and help you to get to where you need to be, because circularity is not just the products that you generate, but also connecting the networks. So if I know Richard needs something and I produce it and it's in excess, I can call Richard and say, Richard, come and collect this. So if I need, so it's really mimicking what happens naturally in nature.
Yeah, and Sean, I was about to say something very similar because, you mentioned Flying Tree, but Flying Tree is doing excellent work. I was beginning to think that no one was doing the plastic recycling in
No, there are
Trinidad
more.
in
There are
a
more.
real
Flying Tree's
sense.
one. There's another young lady.
I think
She
RWL is
does.
doing
She
it
makes
as well.
tiles. I told her I have to buy some and put it in my house and think they could
Yeah.
use as backsplash.
And
Real nice
these are
thing.
excellent products, and we have real needs, and we have
Real
real
needs.
graduates who need real jobs.
Correct.
Right? And we could be generating industry out of some of these resources, all right, that we are
100%
considering
agree.
to be waste. There are lots of people who could be employed in these industries. If it was incentivized in such a way that, let's say, housing is a serious need we have in the country, if HTC needed to get 15% plastic lumber, which is one of the products that Flying Tree creates, then we could have that, coming straight towards from the waste products, going straight towards the housing market, right? And that will be incentivized. Now, these are already government programs in place, so why not have synergy?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of knowing all the players and putting them
And
together.
put them together.
Yes.
Exactly.
To add to that is that what we're seeing, when I was preparing for this forum here, I looked at the food and beverage industry and the sustainable development goals. And I'm saying, if we begin to address food waste,
Yeah.
the benefits of addressing food waste, based on some of the things that Shan touched on, so that you're ensuring that persons are obtaining the food before it becomes
Food waste. Correct.
touches on every
Need.
We thrive on all these things. We have fun with it. We have cultural events. Everything. Food and beverage is at the heart of it. So if we begin to address food waste really seriously, we can touch as a nation on every sustainable development goal except for one. Maybe somebody will be able to come and say, hey, nah, you're wrong. I love to, just looking at it from my lens and perspective, I feel like that's most what I think. And it's a very important, all these sustainable development goals are important, right? Because we see what's happening locally, globally, and how it can impact us. So we are not this sovereign, independent, or anything, any one thing can happen. As I say, no man is an island. I believe the same is true for nations based on our current world, environment, right? The war has in
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
impacting us all in some way or another. And we are particularly at our pockets. And so many persons are beginning to generate food at home,
Yeah.
to avoid some of those costs. And I think, the more we can begin to perceive the bigger picture and this circular economy of value that we can participate in and go back. Samantha, you have some plums and I have some mangoes. Let's begin to look at how
Bartering is still a thing.
Yeah.
oh, you want this from us? No problem.
I have some.
Yeah.
You're involved in agriculture. There are opportunities to increase your compliance so that you're adding value and that you're participating in this circular.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Be
Nadia.
proactive, not reactive.
It could sound
Be
like
proactive.
final words, but I want to give everyone a chance to give us final words on the topic food waste management. Anything we may have missed that you would want our audience to think about.
Okay. So continuing a little bit on what Ms. Rudder was touching on, she didn't use the term, but she started to talk about that pivot point that we're at now. We are at a place where we see some cultural shift. And that's a little bit of what CPEF is trying to do with the Captain Turner composter, as well as in other ways that we reach out to the communities, is really to bring some of the knowledge that's happening at these global conferences to the grassroots community, to the moms and pop shops, to small scale people who are on the ground. They're not attending these global conferences, so maybe they're not aware of the mission that some of the leaders have before them. So really and truly, we have to find a way to bring the message in a way that is palatable to them, so that they could make the changes at home, and really make waste attractive. Because I know that's
Waste
the
is
mission.
sexy.
All
I'm
right,
telling you.
Trying not to say sexy, but okay. So we're trying to make waste more attractive so that people don't, spurn the idea of separating their waste and doing what's needed to make the compost or to separate all their plastics. It's an added chore. But if we understand that this could create industries and this is something that could help us reach these Sustainable Development Goals or Vision 2030, it's all written. But how is it being brought out to the community, to the grassroots level? So hopefully civil society groups can get the public more involved and more aware of what's required.
Thank you so much, Richard. Nadia, your final words? They wouldn't be final, I know. We'll be hearing more from you. Thank you so much. Shan.
Yes, so I'm acting as a processor of what Richard and Nadia just said and trying to really bring it all together. One of the critical things that I realized that we are missing is that we are disconnected. We're disconnected from the actions that we're taking. We're disconnected from what we think the environment is. We're disconnected from the roles that we can play. And it's really important for us to remember that we are not separate from nature, from the earth, from the planet. Your environment is where you live. It's the street that you're on. It's the community that you're a part of. And so think of yourself as a part of a bigger picture. It is important for us, and especially for me, because I wrote this amazing little children's book. It's called Kai's Magical Adventures Where the Garbage Goes.
Okay.
And it's targeted for children, typically 7 to 10 years old. And it's about teaching them what happens to the things after I throw away. Do I need to throw away everything? So using this to start from that age, start from young, because I even get called to do preschools with the little ones. So, but starting from that age so that when they become adults, it's already a part of who they are. It's already a part of their own understanding. But remembering that we are not disconnected from what is happening around us. And if we take a good look at our own lives, you might already find that you're doing things that are sustainable. You probably just never thought of it that way. And so SIAL Environmental is poised and ready to help people to break down some of that hard, tough stuff that you don't understand, and to help you to understand the power of measuring your impact, utilize the power of technology, work with your stakeholders and the community, because I always get asked to come in and do talks all the time, but to help you get from where you are to where you want to be, because I always say it's not always about doing things better, but sometimes we simply need to do better things.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. As it's Shan Coffee Young, Nadia Rudder, and Richard Seabrew. Thank you very much for contributing here
Thank
this
you for having
afternoon.
us.
It was fantastic discussing food waste management at the Caribbean Food and Beverage Event 2023 at the Center of Excellence.